Anok part too long ago, around the year 850 BC, when the world still spoke in the tongue of gods and the Nile ran black under moonlight, there was a city that time forgot, not carved in gold like Thebes, nor built to rival Memphis. This was a city that lived in the spaces between memory and myth, a place whispered of only in crumbling scrolls and among the oldest of wandering priests. Its name was Sut, a name carried more by the desert wind than by any living voice. The people of Sut were not mighty warriors, nor builders of empires. They were dreamers, guardians of a secret they themselves had nearly forgotten. A secret older than even the Nile itself. They feared silence, not for its emptiness, but for what it echoed. To them, silence was not absence, it was presence. A language spoken by the dead and listened to by something older than gods that they filled their lives with sound. Morning chants, evening drums, children whispering to the reeds by the riverbank, old women humming lullabies into the wind. They believed that if they ever truly stopped making noise, the ground beneath them would begin to whisper back, and no one wanted to hear what the earth had to say. Each morning, when the mist rose from the river and the sun painted the sand in molten gold, a man walked the edge of the Nile. He wore a cloak of linen so old it had become one with the dust. His eyes were clouded, blind since childhood. Yet, he knew every curve of the river's edge, every root of the palm trees, every tone of every bird's cry. His name was Nebka, and though he could not see, he had never been blind to the truth of things that Nebka was a scribe. But he wrote not with ink, he wrote with voice, with memory, with breath. Every morning, he stood before the waters and recited the stories of his people. Myths, legends, warnings, dreams. He believed that the telling kept the world alive, that every word spoken aloud was another stone in the wall holding back chaos. The others mostly ignored him. Some thought him mad. Others found comfort in his chants. But none stood beside him. He was alone, until one morning, the sound of sand shifting broke his rhythm. It was soft, purposeful, like a footfall. Nebka paused. "Who listens?" he asked aloud, voice calm, unwavering. There was no answer. He tilted his head slightly. "Are you a spirit or a beast?" Still silence. And then, a voice came low, deep, careful, as though unsure if language was still something it remembered how to use. "Neither," the voice said. "Just a traveler." Nebka turned toward the sound. There was something different in the air now. He couldn't name it. But the river seemed to hold its breath. The traveler said little. Day after day, he returned, sitting in silence while Nebka recited the oral history of Sut. He never interrupted, never asked questions. He simply listened. Yet Nebka knew, that this man was not just passing through. He had come for something. Or perhaps, to awaken something. On the seventh morning, as the sun lifted slowly over the desert horizon, the traveler spoke again. "You tell stories of what was," he said. "But what if I showed you what should have never been buried?" Nebka's breath caught. There was no wind that morning. Only stillness. He reached forward, hand extended. "Let me touch your hand," he said softly. The traveler obliged. The old man's fingers brushed his skin, warm, firm, human, and yet not. There was a mark there, etched deep into flesh. A raised scar in the shape of a seven-pointed star. Nebka trembled. "I have only felt this once before," he whispered. "Long ago, on the hand of a statue hidden beneath the tomb of the river mouth. A star of 7 points. It marked the one who does not die." The traveler said nothing for a time. And then, "There are chambers below this city even your priests dare not remember. But you have remembered what cannot be taught." That night, the traveler returned with Nebka. They walked silently through the city, its narrow alleys hushed beneath the weight of a starless sky, through forgotten courtyards, past homes buried in sand, to the roots of an old acacia tree twisted into the earth like a serpent of stone. There, beneath gnarled bark and bone-dry soil, was a stairway, sunken, cracked, as if the desert itself had tried to hide it. The descent was long. Carved stone steps swallowed the torchlight. The air grew cooler with each step, tasting of iron and memory. Walls lined with ancient glyphs stared back at them, but not in any script Nebka knew. These were older. Before gods had names. The bottom. They reached a vast chamber, untouched for ages. Its ceiling arched like the belly of a giant beast. Pillars leaned, tired but unbroken. At its center was a black sarcophagus, darker than night itself. And on it, the seven-pointed star. "This is not a tomb," the traveler said quietly. "It is a door." Nebka approached slowly. His breath slowed. His hand trembled as he touched the surface. In that moment, his mind was thrown wide open and he saw visions, skies unfamiliar to this world, stars that shimmered like thoughts, mountains moving like waves. He saw figures made of light, crying in silence. He saw fire raining into oceans, and time folding in on itself like parchment too long left in the sun. And through it all, he saw a man, alone, in every age, every place, always watching, waiting. He bore the star upon his shoulder. He was the traveler. He was Anok. The vision passed like a wave. Nebka collapsed, gasping. The traveler knelt beside him, lifting him gently. "You saw," he said. "You remember." Nebka asked the question he could not hold in. "Why me? I am blind." The traveler smiled, though Nebka could not see it. "Because blind eyes often see what open ones cannot. You have never looked at the world with arrogance. That is why the world has chosen to show itself to you." From beneath his cloak, the traveler removed a fragment wrapped in old linen. A piece of something hard, smooth, strange. It was a map, but not of any land Nebka knew. It showed the Nile, but the curves were wrong. The stars on its edge were drawn not by human hand. And at its heart was a Quetzat, circled. "It says," Nebka whispered, tracing the symbols, "anchor." The traveler nodded. "This city is not where it was meant to be. It was placed here to hold something still. If it moves, time will unravel." Nebka wanted to speak again, to ask what was being held, what had been buried. But when he opened his eyes, the chamber was empty. The traveler was gone. Nebka tried to return the next day, and the next, but the stairwell beneath the acacia had vanished, as though the desert had swallowed its own memory. He spoke his stories with new urgency now, told the tale of the man marked by the star, of the door beneath the earth, of the city that held time still. People mocked him, but others, quietly, began to dream. They dreamt of stars falling like feathers, of voices humming beneath water, of fire that did not burn. The priests of a Quetzat grew uneasy. The sandstorms came earlier that season, and one morning, without warning, the city was gone and no ruins. No bodies, no flames, only river, only wind, only the echo of a story. And in the farthest corner of the Nile, where no maps dared draw, they say a figure still walks the shore each dawn, speaking softly into the AI, to no one, or to someone, that a name sometimes rises in the wind. Not Egyptian, not of this world, a name that passes through time like a whisper, Anok. And if you hear it in your dreams, you have been chosen to remember.